There you go.
Thanks, Jay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. The first item is life cycle modeling. So this is super exciting meeting today. Steve and I are excited to kind of share with you guys. This is kind of like your public works work session. So we talk about all things public works. So congratulations. Try to stay awake, please. The first one is a presentation on the life cycle modeling. So you guys may recall we entered into a contract with Rithers Ravenel to help us do this. And so just a little quick 10,000 foot view. The purpose of this is we currently have an existing, we talk about our good roads, good maintenance system, and we use Paiser ratings. We evaluate our roads. That's really from like today backwards. It's historical. And so this life cycle modeling is looking at, based on our current conditions and what our program is, what it looks like projecting forward. So what we're really looking at, what does the next 5 years look like? If we spend a certain amount of money, what is the impact on that on the future in terms of how our roads are maintained? It's also a verification of, are we spending enough money? Should we spend more money? So it's supposed to be a decision-making tool for all of you as well to understand, are we making enough of an investment into our infrastructure so that it's in a good condition and it continues to remain in a good condition? Or if we see there's a point where there's a big drop off, then is that a point, what can we do now before we get to that point where it becomes a problem? So I know you guys kind of have like a executive summary that's in your packet. I don't necessarily want to run through all of that information with you guys. I think you guys can review that on your own. I want to talk a little bit about some of the outcomes, what we've learned from the information, and then the end product that we have is actually up on your screen over here, which is the actual model and ran in the data. And I know it's a little hard to see, so I'll maybe dim the lights here in a minute after I talk for a minute. But I want to maybe just talk through a little bit just what we did and kind of how we got and what the ultimate results were. So like I said, we ran a couple different scenarios through our model. So again, the background of this data is 25 years of our historical data of maintaining our streets, what our Paiser ratings are, how they work, how they've degraded over time, and what that looks like. And then we ran several different scenarios. So the baseline scenario is our current budget number, which is 1.26 million. So we'll talk a lot about our baseline budget and what we do. Now, you guys may say 1.26 million, that's our paving number, that's our reclamite number, or our preservative seal, and our crack sealing. So that's what we spend on those three things typically annually. That's what's basically in your budget for this year. Next year, it's a little bit more, but we also ran a scenario of what if it was 2.52 million, if we basically doubled it, what if we doubled that and went to 5 million? What if we reduced it and went to 750,000? And what if we did unlimited? And so I'll show you guys a graph here in a minute that shows what the outcome of running all those different scenarios looked like. But again, I want to give you a little bit of background on the information. The basis of all this was they pulled all the data from our GIS system. So going through this was really a full team effort. Betsy was involved and Steve was involved. Jordan was involved. Keaton was involved. Everybody kind of had a role in this in different parts of what they do. So again, model set up in collaboration. We had to make certain assumptions based on those kind of treatments and things that we do and what their impacts would be to the pavement. So section B on that report in front of you talks about that model set up in calibration. And so again, we've refined it originally a lot of times. So there's going to be, I'm going to talk about what's practical and what's real, and then what we really see in the field versus what we have to tell the model to do, because we want the model to spit out something different to us versus what the reality is. So Steve, when you're talking, sometimes he may say, well, when you reclamite a road or you crack seal a road, it doesn't change its Paiser rating. And that's true, but in the actual model, if we don't model that, it shows the road continues to degrade, and that's not realistic. So for the model purposes, we did put in there assumptions that there'd be an improvement after those maintenance or after those treatments. And so we show those for the crack seal, the reclamite. Obviously, when we pave a road, there is an improvement, a physical improvement to that treatment. The reality is, the minute we pave that road, it's a 10. The next year, it immediately drops a 9. That's our biggest, no matter what, if it's not brand new, then the best it can be is a 9. And so that first step drop in degradation is always, I mean, that's 1/10 of the value of your pavement, and you lose it in a single year. So keep that in mind as we look at some of these models. And that's really just the pavement methodology. So the second piece then, as we move down to B on the top of your third page, is the degradation curve. And for those of you who've heard Steve or I do the spiel about good roads good, the degradation curve is really important. So the degradation curve is, there's a period of time where the road will degrade, and it may go slowly for a period of time, but then it's going to take a dip and it's going to drop off. And we don't want to get to that big drop off. The goal of the Good Roads Good, the entire program, is to extend that degradation curve. And so one of the things that we found out when we were going through this process that really validated it is that our degradation curve is really spread out. And this is based on historical data. So again, it's validation that what we're doing is good, that we have this big flat period because of our preservation treatments in our crack sealing that are keeping that degradation curve flat. So originally when they ran it, they typically would use a 20-year degradation curve. Well, ours was so good, they had to spread it out. Otherwise, it became immeasurable. So we actually used, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, 50-year degradation curve, or was it 40?
Yeah, so in reality, we can beat any curve that they came up with. We don't have perpetual pavement, no such thing.
Right.
Where we come as close as you can probably come to it. They had to customize their software because we've done so well. Our performance outperformed anything they've ever done with. So we're pretty proud. I think Brian and I are really proud of what we found out through this. So they're trying to make it so that you can have a prediction, right? If you don't have predictability, what do you need this for? So in this whole thing, they're predicting how it can work. My goal is still to beat it. I don't beat the software because I think we can, and we've done it over and over. So yeah, I think Brian, right, when they customized it for us, it was a learning process for them. And they've done this for many communities around the country. They're actually presenting it through this year, and they're not just here. I think
Yeah, Plainfield is just starting to use it, and then they're going to be at Road School this year doing a presentation as well at Road School. And I think they've asked Steve, and I think Steve said no, and I think they've reached out to me. I haven't got back with them yet, but. So I'm going to try to pull it up on here. So do you guys have any questions? Like at any time, like I'm going to talk a lot, so stop me if I'm talking. Go ahead, Bill.
I just have a definition question. What do you consider as, I have reinforced overlay. What do you consider reinforcing?
So basic, an overlay is when you're just in a mill and fill, right? A reinforced is when you're adding structure to it. What we do is we add the fabric. That fabric is basically like adding steel to concrete. We're adding this fiberglass to the asphalt. So what happens with that green stuff that you see? I say it. Some people say it's gray. I think it's green.
I say it's blue.
Okay. Whatever color it is, we lay this fabric down. This fiberglass. What the asphalt comes down around 200 to 300 degrees, and it melts it. And so that then becomes the reinforcement. It's melted fiberglass in there, and it gives it tensile strength. So that's reinforced.
Having been an old asphalt guy, I understood that. I just wanted to make sure that was what you were talking about when you use that word, because some people use it to mean different things.
Oh, yeah. And this thickness can be reinforced, right? Yeah. If you're using large aggregate and that considered as reinforced, but it's not as good as what we're doing with a smaller section.
And in the old days, back in the 70s, that's all you had.
Right. Right.
That's
they
what
actually have fiber reinforced asphalt now. We don't use it.
We have before.
We've tried.
Yeah, I think before you were here, we did Avon Village Parkway. We did with fiber reinforced asphalt.
We really haven't improved it so.
And what you just described, you did in Sycamore Creek.
Yes.
And again, the concept of that is, while we may be spending a little bit more money because that fabric costs money, the point is to extend the life. So everything becomes a story about extending that degradation curve. And if instead of we're spending that money and instead of getting 12 years out of the overlay, we can get 18, that's extending it. And again, maybe it's not that dramatic. maybe it's 12, it's 14, but in the overall status of the pavement for the entire town, that little bit matters. Every little, I mean, we're scratching and clawing to extend that degradation curve. The less frequently we have to come back and repave that street, the less money it costs for us to maintain that mile. So that's why we're willing to spend a little more on that overlay. It may mean we don't get to pave as much, but it means that overlay will last longer. Good question, Bill. The next one is really hard to see. I apologize now that I'm looking at it. I don't know if you guys, it is in your exhibit too, but it's hard to see there. These are the 5 different scenarios ran together. And so you can kind of see how they're all charted. And so you may say to yourself, which is what Steve and I said with Rivers Ravenel, is why do they all look exactly the same? And why are they pretty much the same? Well, that's because we think that the value of our program has such that it's flattened that curve and how it actually looks. So if you see the very top one, just to dramatize it, that's if you had the unlimited amount of money to spend. Well, if we had an unlimited amount of money to spend, our road conditions wouldn't be much better than the manner in which we're already doing it. And so again, I think this validates that situation, that spending more money doesn't necessarily equate to better roads. It's the manner in which you're managing them and the treatments that you provide that will actually lengthen and what it actually costs. So again, you guys may look at me and say, what does that mean, Ryan? What I think that means, and I think what Steve would agree it means, is that what we're spending is a sufficient amount of money. Spending twice as much money to give you that level of a difference in Payzer rating. If I showed you a 6 pavement and I showed you a 7 pavement, you'd probably not be able to tell the difference. And so again, while you may say, well, why do we spend money on this? What this really does is it validates what we're doing and continues to say the way we're investing our money is valuable. Now, again, the idea of this is every year we're evaluating it and we're reviewing it and seeing how it may change and what it may change. And again, behind here, there's also a value to us as staff. So for Steve and Keaton and Betsy, we can also download there. You'll see in a minute, there's recommendations. So we can now pull that information and we can use it as recommendations of what we'll do. Now, there's still a human factor to this. This model is not perfect. And that's why we have a Steve that goes out and looks at it and says, okay, well, maybe the model recommended this treatment this year, but it's actually in really good shape and this piece is worse. And so there's still a human factor. We can't solely rely on the model to provide us that information. Again, there's a breakdown of the funding categories. I'm not going to go through all of those. Further investigations and next steps, I guess. I'll maybe show you guys this software a little bit. There were a couple of things when Steve and I were reviewing this that we may need to talk to them about. But again, this is the software. It's pretty cool. You can see, I don't know if you guys can see the cursor here, but here it has different models. So we can actually open the different models and review the different scenarios and how that impact is. You can see here's a listing of all of our assets. So every one of our roads, I don't know if you guys see me moving this. Every one of our roads, basically, again, super easy. Green, good. Yellow, fair. Red, bad. And so if I do a scroll down, no, that's not going to maybe let me do it. For some reason, it's not letting me do it. I'll show it to you here in a second. But this one over here is condition states by asset count. So again, the real dark green is really good. The lighter green is very good. The yellow is fair. And actually here, like if I click on it, it actually shows me an example of it. If you see, it'll show you what. And then down here, you probably can't see it because the software is not very, or the image isn't very clear, but there's a really thin orange line or red line, whatever it may be, which is the poor pavement. And it's basically so thin you can't even see it. Because in our inventory, we have so few streets that are actually of that rating that it's really good. And it's not Austrian way, Julie. Try though. I already showed you guys a simulation comparison. And these are actually like real tools. So Steve and Betsy can get in here and play with these things. DHL comparison, I'm not really going to go over that. I think this one's a little bit interesting. This is an investment plan. This is if all things being perfect, what you would actually invest in. And so you can see it shows crack seal, it shows reclamite, and then it shows reinforced overlay. Now, it does show in the first year that we ought to spend $7.5 million. So again, this is where the reality doesn't necessarily meet the model. That's because currently in the model, we loaded and said, well, every time a road gets to a 4, it needs a reinforced overlay. Well, we don't have that criteria now. So in the start of the program, it's making it look like there's all these roads that actually really need it, which they don't necessarily need it. So don't get too hung up on that. We're not asking you to spend $7.5 million in the first year. What that does is it just becomes a backlog and we continue to monitor it. That becomes the human element then as Steve evaluates and decides what roads we're actually going to pave and what needs to be done.
And one of the big things about it is it points out roads that maybe we miss, right? Maybe we miss this cul-de-sac, we don't drive through it, we don't notice how bad it's really getting. Well, that's a low priority because it's low user, but again, we don't want to have to replace it with full depth asphalt. So we do want to do maintenance on them. And so it points out things that we may have missed. And that's really important. If it gets bad enough and now you're spending, $200 a square yard versus, $20 a square yard, that's a big deal.
So again, this next one is a backlog. And we'll get you, this next one I think is the one that's really good. This was the one I was looking for
There you
earlier.
go, you scroll down there.
So here's the scroll down. So here's the map of the whole town that shows actually, again, green good, yellow is normal, and red bad. And again, I know it's hard for you guys to see, but there's literally like 2 streets on the entire thing that are bad. And those are things that Steve is actually planning maintenance on next year. But like if I scroll through this whole list of every road, you can see there's hardly everything. Everything's green and yellow.
There we go.
There's a couple of pores. Again, those are still pores. They're not terrible. But you can see our roads are all in really good condition. And what we'll do is we can export this data and we'll get you guys a copy of like that map because I think that's easier for you guys to see. But we'll get it in a big version so you guys can see what all of our roads look like and how it actually works. And again, that's in our something you guys are typically used to seeing before. Then it also has treatment maps. So again, then this will show the actual roads that, sorry, yeah, you can't see that at all, but this one is in blue, but it shows the different treatments that we're going to do for next year and every year kind of going forward. By the numbers, this just shows what your investment will be over the next, so many years based on, this is actually the wrong model. That would be what your investment would be over the next, by the year 2034, so for the next 10 years. There's a sustainability index. We're still trying to understand some of these tools, but we'll analyze that more as we go forward. So there's the software. That's the results. So I think I'll just maybe end or we can answer any questions. I think maybe the 4 things I want to leave with you guys and we can move on is I think, again, the purpose of it is to help us kind of understand where do we begin, where do we end, where do our road projects work. The second point I think that's really important is it validates that our good roads good philosophy is actually working. 3, I think it proves that our investment in roads is sufficient with what we are spending. And so I hope that gives you guys validation that we had wanted to get this to you guys before you voted on the budget, because that a lot of times tends to be, are we investing enough? Are we doing enough? And I think, again, the model does verify that we can do it. It also says that we could spend more if we wanted to, but we'd have to spend substantially more to make minor improvements in the Pacer average. And again, I don't know that that's worthwhile. Again, we'll continue to monitor this. We will rerun the model on an annual basis. And so this will be an annual contract moving forward. So we'll continue to share these results with you. And there may be a point where we're saying, hey, based on what we do, we need to spend more, or there may be a point where we come to where we think we can spend less. So I think that tool can help us do that. And then finally, to Steve's point, that I hope gives you guys some peace of mind and the public and anybody watching, we're beating the model. And I think, again, this has always been our success, is that we've been able to beat the model. We've been able to beat that degradation curve. And the more we can beat that degradation curve, the better our roads are in our community and the less we actually have to spend. And I think that's a really positive. I think that's what we should be doing. So, Steve, anything you want to add? Anything I missed?
No, it just proves that we are one of the leaders. People look to us, and, we went in to present at road school at Purdue and for the whole state. I mean, they look to us because we've done so well with this for so many years. This is just one more thing that helps. Will help us continue on with what we're doing.
So there's more information than the handout you gave us, and that handout that was in the agenda.
Correct. Yeah. And that's what this software is. Again, I don't know that you guys wouldn't want to dabble in it, but there's way more data. And that's what this is, just like a giant GIS database, but then the model runs that data through it. But so, yeah, there's much more to it. And that's what we try to kind of give you the summary without necessarily having to have you guys spend hours. Yeah. I mean,
I'm ready.
Let me think about it.
I have a quick question.
yes, sir.
So as we are looking to do annexations, how will that be put into the model, or will it be put in the model, or will we evaluate it before we decide to do annexations?
So typically when we do annexation, we do an evaluation. So if we're annexing it, Steve goes out and looks at all the streets in the neighborhood. That actually goes into your fiscal plan, and that becomes a part of your fiscal plan. And we make assumptions that we're going to reclamite and we're going to preservative seal and we're going to crack seal every neighborhood when we annex it. So those end up as capital costs in an annexation, and that's in your fiscal plan. That's a lot of times why when you go look at a fiscal plan in the first 5 years, they end up being losses, but that's because we're putting in that road maintenance. So again, in the short term, it may be a loss, but in the long term, the pavement's better. Once we annex them, yes, we would pull them in and we'd bring them into the model, and we would reconsider it. And that's, I think that's something we've done really well, is that one of the things we try to sell people for annexation is that our roads are better and our roads are good. And I would still go further to say, I've had this argument a lot with the county. The county just goes out and paves streets, but then I see them back paving again in like 7 years. Well, yeah, sure, the street looks nice for a couple of years, but they're not fixing the underlying problems. They're not addressing the real condition of the road. They're just making it look pretty, and then they're spending more money. They'll do 2 or 3 overlays in the same time we'll do one. And so we're spending a lot less money getting more value for our money.
And we evaluate annually now, so like Keaton will take north of 36, Eli will take south of 36, we'll rate them all, so we update that annually. And then they flip the next year, and that way we get a good average. Because you put them together, like Ryan said, you won't be able to tell just between a 6 and a 7, they can. And they usually will agree, if you put them side by side, say, we think that is, and you write it down, they'll agree almost every time. They might be a little bit off every now and then, maybe whatever some programs did, but they're very consistent. And so we're going to evaluate every year. We put the information there, and that's where we beat the software. When we come up with what the tax base is graded to. It's not hitting that curve like they anticipate. We're beating it. So we add anything we annex gets added in. We evaluate that too in the next year.
Well, we appreciate you guys, looking at our roads and taking it seriously for sure. So thank you. We'll move on to no parking request, Turner Trace.
Yeah, so I had a meeting with the Turner Trace Homeowners Association president. He came in last week and met with me and wanted to talk to me about some issues he was having in the neighborhood and wanted to see how the town could assist and help. Very nice gentleman, kind of talked through some issues. In particular, he talked to me about 3 streets Governor's Row, Turner Trace Place North, and Cambridge Way. And hopefully it showed up on your exhibit. You have a little map, and I highlighted the streets in green that were the concern. So I don't know that I've had this conversation with this group of town council people, but parking issues come up fairly frequently from neighborhoods about how to deal with parking. I will tell you, it's a really challenging issue for you guys on how to deal with no parking. Typically, the town's position in the past has been that it's a neighborhood decision and that it should be made by neighborhoods, not by the town. The main reason I would say that is because the enforcement mechanism becomes a challenge. And so Chief Stoops over here would say, if we made no parking all over town, who are people going to call when people are parking? They're going to call the police. And you guys are aware that we have been understaffed with the police department. And so asking our police department to now go deal with parking issues versus other issues that they should be dealing with, is that really the best use of our resources? I'll tell you that in the town code, if you want to prohibit parking, you have to pass a no parking ordinance, and it has to be properly signed. And at that point, the police department could do it. In the town code, there's not a single residential neighborhood that has no parking. We have some streets that are like business collectors. So Kingston Street, Vista Parkway, Production Drive. You guys remember a couple years ago, you did Charles Nelson Drive. You made no parking. Those are business collectors. They're not residential streets. Again, this is a really challenging issue for you guys as a council because some people will love it if you pass no parking. The other half of the people are going to hate it because they're going to say, I want to have a party. I want to park where I want. And so it is a challenging issue. The representative from Turner Trace had some conversations with their attorney who told them that they think it's a challenge for them, or that it may not even be legal for them to enforce no parking on their streets through their covenants, which is why I think that they've come to the town. I know Linda was a great resource for me and shared with us that she had information from Indianapolis that homeowners associations could enforce covenants in their neighborhoods, but they can only enforce it against their residents because those are the people that live there. So if there's other people who are renting or are visiting, that they may not be able to enforce against those people. And so again, the representative from Turner Trace said they think some of their parking issues are a result of people who are renting and who don't actually live there, don't actually own the homes. And so that they weren't even certain that that homeowners association solution was a good solution for them based on the problem they were having. So again, I tried to educate him and kind of share this information with him. I'm sure I'm missing some other issues, but I'm happy to answer questions. He asked that I share his concern with you all and see if there was any willingness to consider this. And so I'm doing as he requested. And I don't know if you guys have any guidance or if you have questions, or I'm sure Sean's happy to answer. Steve has been involved in attempting to help the neighborhood as well. I also passed them on to code enforcement. Some of the issues I believe he was having with some of their parking, our code enforcement may be able to assist him with as well. So again, we want to be supportive of our neighborhood, but I'm not sure how far you guys are willing to go, or if you're willing to consider no parking for their particular streets.
You didn't talk about parking on one side only. I don't think no parking is a solution, but what about parking on one side only?
That's an option, and I think that's what he was actually suggesting was, would we be willing to pass an ordinance that says no parking? And he talked about that on the side of the street with the mailboxes. Could we make that no parking? Because he did indicate as well with people parking in front of mailboxes, blocking others from being able to get their mail. Again, I don't know if that's a town issue and that we want to get into that. I mean, the U.S. Postal Service says you can't block mailboxes. So again, I think the reality is they are having some of these problems, but I'm not sure what that solution is. Yes, Greg, that's an option. Again, the town has not done that. There are a lot of neighborhoods, and you guys will remember from some rezonings, that neighborhoods have put it in their covenants that they would restrict parking in their neighborhoods and that they would only allow it on one side of the street. I know the Regency, I think there's been a few recently that have come through that the HOAs were going to restrict that. Sometimes when they ask for a waiver of street widths, we say, neighborhood, you have to prohibit the parking. You're not going to put that on us, because do that. So a lot of times we try to deal with those through zoning cases. Turner Trace is, was approved before I even started working here, it was approved in like 1997 or 98. So it is not built to our current standards. I will share, it has a couple unique issues, in particular Governor's Row, which is the east-west street. It has a boulevard on it, and it's very narrow. It's actually impossible to park on it. I don't know if anybody's doing it. I know there's been some issues with delivery trucks trying to do it. Governor's Road is an alley. They have alleys in the back. So they're really supposed to go around the back if they want to do deliveries. But of course, that's not very convenient for delivery drivers because those are townhomes. They actually face Governor's Row. And I know Steve and I have looked at it. It is too narrow. People should not be parking on it. I don't know if that means you want to pass a no parking ordinance. Again, I feel like it's one of those common sense things. It's very obvious you shouldn't park on it, but as we know, a lot of common sense no longer exists. So,
That neighborhood is a very diverse neighborhood in which most people are not from the United States, so they park wherever they want to park. When you and I think about parking in front of Greg's house, I'm going to get over to the curb as much as I possibly can. These folks don't understand that. They'll just park. And sometimes the width of those roads there, if I park a couple of feet away from the curb and someone else parks a couple of feet away from the curb, you're talking maybe 9 to 10 feet for a fire truck to get through. And a lot of those people have 7 or 8 vehicles to a home. Because we don't have any ordinances that keeps the number of people from living in a house. But that's, I'm just sharing that with you. I think what Ryan said about Governor's Row is, again, very unique because people have parked there, and I know that association has done whatever they can do to keep people who live in those townhouses from parking there. But people are people. I wouldn't have to have this gentleman over here if what we told him all, not to rob a bank, things like that. So anyway, just adding that on. And you're right, Turner Trace, I was here, sitting over here in this chair when we approved Turner Trace. And the width of the roads just aren't there.
You don't have,
The last thing is when we, the town of Avon, approved the subdivision to the north, we connected from 150 to 100 south. And so much traffic during the school year, school times, morning and afternoon and at lunch, and it's backed up at the roundabout on Avon Avenue, that people just pull through on Turner Trace South to go to Turner Trace North to go into the northern subdivision. So my biggest concern is, and it only takes once, and we've had a fire there at one time, and you guys had to come out and control the traffic so the fire engines could get in, is that if there's a fire on that street, a fire truck can't get from point A to point B, they're going to have to get out, go around to 10th Street and come in the other way. And you don't know that till you get there.
I just had a comment to just come back on what you're saying, what you said earlier, but wrong. Don't let your decision be swayed because of manpower issues. Don't let that be the reason that you don't adopt something or do adopt something, because we will make it work regardless of what you do, regardless of manpower issues, in the interest of public safety. So just for that reason, Mr. Holland was just talking about, if there's a road or neighborhood that needs to be no parking, they'll not make it a non-parking neighborhood just because you don't want to put an extra burden on us. We will find a way to take those calls for service enforce those ordinances, and I think we can work with code enforcement as well. Come up with some ideas on how we can also enforce those no parking areas that you might designate.
So if these townhomes that feed through the back alleys is a problem, and we end up taking a step to make this no parking, then I would hope that any future development that would come to the town, we would not allow that to happen. It would need to be of a without exceptions, so that we don't get back into this situation again. I mean, does that seem reasonable? We can't continue to bring in subdivisions when we know that it's a problem, and then
Right.
put that additional burden on our police department. To me, that doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah, I don't know that a neighborhood like this would get approved under our existing standards. I don't, again, it was unique.
We do have townhomes that come to us and they
Correct.
come in off of an alley, which are not as wide as a typical street.
Well, we haven't had any yet. I think there were some that were proposed, but I think the one set of townhomes we have, they have a wider street. And now I think they did have some waiver requests at the planning commission level, but I still think there's sufficient distance. And I think that neighborhood did a prohibition of parking on their streets, but it was a neighborhood issue. It wasn't necessarily the town.
But you see what I'm getting at?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Do you have, is there a general parking area within this development that they can park there? Or so where are they going to park to get to their homes?
Where are you talking about?
I know, but
Where are you talking about?
well, I'm just saying in general, do you have a place where they can go park if we're going to put up no parking signs?
Well, as Ryan was talking about, was keeping them from one side of the street so you don't have this. This is fine.
Well, that's what I said. We haven't talked about one side of the street parking.
Well, I have.
I think there's more research to be done here, and I think the other thing is, you talk about people cutting through other subdivisions. You didn't talk about speed bumps or anything like that to slow people down.
Well, I think you guys did do a study for the stop signs.
Oh, stop sign, yes, but not for traffic calming.
Speaking of traffic calming, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, I've heard it from either you or Linda or someone from Public Works or someone from planning that it's actually a good idea to have parking on the side of roads to slow traffic down as they pass through residential neighborhoods.
It does slow people down, if there's enough width, get, a fire truck through if they're parking on both sides. I never have liked where you restrict it to one side, park to one side, because you're gonna get that one-off person parking on the other side, if not enough width, you're gonna have a problem. It's unintended consequence of thinking you can enforce something on everybody. You can't. You need the physical width in order to be able to have the parking on both sides in order to, it's a development, right? I don't think you disagree, but, if they say we want no parking on one side, you can't count on that happening. So parking on both sides, you gotta have it width. That's all there is to it. If we don't have our standard width, I'm not for it.
In this particular situation.
In this particular situation, I actually have installed some no parking signs around the traffic circle, the roundabout, the quasi roundabout. That they knew, we talked about it, that the police would not enforce it because they were not approved by the town council. So if it's HOA police or if it's just information, that's fine. I would actually recommend for the council to approve no parking along Governor's Road because it is an issue, even though there's not signs now. You have a lot of compliance, a lot of people not parking there, but you get the delivery vehicles, you got, the one-off person that parks in front of there. I don't think if they do it very often, but you can't get through. I've had to pull up on the curb of the island to get around vehicles before. That's to me, that's not acceptable. So if you were gonna approve no parking, I would say Governor's Road would be primary. I would say the circle is primary. This back row,
Yeah,
I'm not a big fan of making that no parking because they're gonna park there anyway. Yeah, I think you're gonna have all kinds of non-compliance with that, but I think Governor's Row is something that people would see as reasonable and maybe be more compliant. The traffic circle, obviously. I don't think I've never seen anyone parking on the road, between, 150 and the traffic circle. I don't have you.
Yep.
Okay, well, I've not seen it, so I can't say, but, that's another area that might, but in between the houses, in the neighborhood, I'm not a fan of the no parking there. And I think that goes back to HOA enforcement. And I am a fan of that. I've lived in a neighborhood where, you had the lady that worked for the HOA. And even if she didn't call the tow truck back, if you just put that sticker on your driver's side window, he hated it. I mean, if you try to get those things off, they're not fun. But you park the wrong place for like 2 minutes, all of a sudden you got a sticker. So I mean, HOA compliance, they can do things that make people not want to park on the street, rather than calling the police every time.
Well, I agree with your Governor's Row idea, and then the one coming off, was that 150 South?
Yeah.
Those two make sense, because the 150 South is a retention pond, so there's no houses right on that side of the road versus the other side. And those houses have, I think, I don't know the name of the road, but they have place to park. Maybe that's a start.
What would you suggest to be the requirement that would qualify for your neighborhood to get a no parking sign? Because that's what we're opening the box to.
Great.
I guarantee my neighborhood's gonna come to you. I guarantee you every single HOA inside this community will be like, that's gonna solve our traffic issue and our ground people issue. Let's institute no parking in this neighborhood. How are we gonna limit that?
Lane width.
Lane width?
Yeah, lane width. In this case, the lanes won't allow two cars to pass.
So how many other neighborhoods meet that?
I don't know of any.
What's that number?
What's the number here?
Yeah, what's the width of the road that you need that meets this?
If you don't have 22 feet minimum, I would think, 8. I don't know, 20.
I don't think we should wing it.
Yeah.
I think we could, if that's what you guys, if you want us to look into that, that's fine, we can do it. I mean, we have, our current street standards have standards of where it's okay to have parking on one side, where it's okay to have parking on two sides, and there are street widths in those street standards that are appropriate with that the fire department signed off on. So I would say, again, we would probably need to look at that, Robert, because we haven't done that. And again,
I totally agree, is that kind of the metric that I feel like?
I think Steve's metric is the right metric, but I'd ask you to let us look at it probably. And again, I didn't want to spend time and resources of staff if this wasn't something you wanted us to spend time on. And so that's why it's on your agenda. And if you want us to develop, if you guys think it's something you're willing to do, we can develop some criteria and give you information about what it is. If you want to say this isn't a town issue, let the HOAs deal with it, then I don't want to spend town resources on it. So that's really what it's on this agenda from you guys is there a willingness to do it, or do you want more information? Do you want us to create criteria for you on when no parking may be appropriate in subdivisions? And again, I'd like to include our fantastic attorney over here in that as well and make sure we're following proper procedures and everything.
I think if we create criteria, back to what Robert was saying, because I agree, people are gonna, it's not just a turn to trace problem, it's a lot of subdivision problems. So we are going to have people come through, we're setting a precedent. So, but again, I think it goes back to future development. If we set a standard, then I think people are gonna say, well, you have a standard now, and so you should give us that exception. And I think that that's inviting more new development to also look at any standard that we would set.
Opening that box concerns me, but a lot of things concern me. But guardrailing it and putting in strong language that gives us strength to fight
that slippery slope that I'm afraid of happening if we open this box. So if it's lane width, like I feel like that's an area, okay, Turner Trace is non-compliant to our current standards. So maybe that's the area that we can, okay, this was built before we had this standard, and so this is sort of a special exception. And now, using just my neighborhood, I'm Avon, I'm sorry, you don't need this because you meet our current standards. That's traffic calming for your neighborhood. It's too bad, so sad. I'm a little worried about the next council going, oh, well, we moved it here, let's move it further, but I'll let that be for the next one. That'd be my only.
Well, the other side of that is we have areas, subdivisions that we've annexed in that were built by the county. So I think you have to do research for pretty much every subdivision to make certain.
Lane width on every road we have. So
Okay.
We could just do a quick query in our GIS and find out which roads are of a certain width or less.
Okay.
Well, I'm thinking of most recently Harper Estates. They're just starting to build those homes in that neighborhood there on Dan Jones by the church that sold out. And I remember when they were putting in their expanded retention pond, we were worried about that curve back there and if the fire trucks or school buses even were going to be able to make that curve. And so if they had parking on that street, is their street wide enough? I mean, that's a subdivision still being built right now.
Right, well, yeah, we're building it out, so all this is done.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the right angle corners
Yes.
that I hate?
Yes, yes.
It could be, they should be able to make, fire, emergency vehicle should be able to make that turn with the park on the outside. If the park on the outside and the inside, maybe not. So one, I guess, we come back to your one side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I don't want to beat a dead horse, but is it of value for staff to spend some time and get some data together for you guys and share it back?
I'm happy to look at it.
Okay.
I'm not really in favor of it at the moment.
Okay.
I like the way that was said. I'll do with that.
Okay, moving on, MPO call for project. Is this you, Steve, or is it Brian?
Oh, I'll take it. Steve will pitch in and help as well. So, the MPO just opened up their call for projects actually on Monday. And so Steve and I have started coordinating with our engineers about what projects we're doing or if we want to submit projects. So I think we have, Steve and I kind of talked, well, Steve, Shelby, and I talked. Shelby's involved too. Sorry, Shelby. I need to leave you out. Started kind of talking about projects and what we want to submit. Again, I think what our recommendations would be are consistent with the capital improvement plan. But again, when we do these applications, we basically make a commitment to fund these projects. So I kind of thought it valuable to, before I go too far down the line and start putting together applications, that we clear that up for you guys. So I think the 3 projects, and again, we can apply for all of these, none of these, one of them, 2 of them, 3 of them, whatever you guys want. But I think our recommendations, and most of these are based on the scoring criteria. So for those of you who may not be familiar with the MPO, we have to apply through the MPO's process. They have score sheets. You submit your applications. They score you based on the criteria of your project, and then you score a certain level. Then your score competes at everybody else who submits a similar project across the entire 9-county region. So if we want to do a road widening project, we're competing against a road widening project in Fishers and Carmel, in Johnson County and Greenwood. And so how our projects score matter. And so typically these projects that we're recommending for you guys are projects we think would score well. The first one I want to share with you guys is Dan Jones Road Phase 5. And so I've had some conversations with the RDC about this. I haven't talked to you guys as much, which is why I felt like I kind of wanted to at least bring it to your attention. The Dan Jones widening projects are eating up a lot of our TIF cash. They're really big projects. In particular, Phase 3 is just a monster. I mean, our share of it's over $10 million. They're really expensive projects. And so we used to have a $10, $12 million fund balance in TIF. Now we're down to like a $2 million fund balance in TIF. So our TIF funds are getting tighter because we've invested so much money in these projects. Now, with that said, if we don't get federal funds, we can't afford these projects at all. So our only option to be able to fund these kind of projects are through this MPO application. So the other thing I wanted to share was the MPO is currently reviewing their scoring criteria, and I would expect them to all change. And so in particular, Dan Jones Road 3, or Dan Jones Road 5, I apologize, would actually score 100, which means if we apply for it, it will probably get funded. That's the good news. The bad news is that it's a really expensive project. And so we still have to be able to come up with our match if we do it. So last year we did not apply for it because, and again, I think we've talked about this in the capital improvement plan process, we didn't think we necessarily had the money to pay for it. Now it's rolled another year, so we're looking at, like, I think this call is 2030 and maybe even 2031. So I mean, we're talking about 5-6 years down. So we think as we've chewed through some of these other Dan Jones that we can probably deal with and find a way to pay for this segment of Dan Jones. Or we may have to be a little creative, which if you guys recall in this year's budget, we had to get creative with how we were paying for Dan Jones. We're using some of the new wheel tax. We put in some additional money from CCD to pay for it. So we may have to be creative in future years to figure out how to pay for those. But if we don't apply for them, you know, again, we don't have any chance. So
We're also using general obligation bonds, aren't we?
not for the Dan Jones widening. We're using
but for
we're
other
using
projects.
the GO for other projects, right? We did that GO bond for the Raceway and 100 North. That's how we're paying for Raceway 100 North. And then we're using a portion of the GO bonds for the roundabout at 900 and Charles Nelson Drive as well.
So this is the segment from the roundabout by the high school down to to where it meets Plainfield, right there by Fairwood, going south on Main Street.
Correct. So you have two things. You have a map here. So this is, in our discussions, one of the things, and then you have a cost estimate here as well. That's $17 million. So the $17 million is going from 200 South all the way to Plainfield Christian Church. Part of the problem that's so expensive is that there's 3 bridges in that segment. So what Steve and I have had the conversation with Structure Point is, can we break that, what we originally called Phase 5, into 2 segments? Can we call it Phase 5 and it would just go from 200 South to Fairwood? That project only has 1 bridge in it. We eliminate 2 bridges. Now, we also know that the county is working on the 2 bridges. The southernmost bridge by Plainfield Christian Church, if you drive over it, it has an emergency sign that says certain vehicles aren't allowed to drive over it. And that's because the condition of that bridge is in poor shape. So I think we've got into a bit of a battle with the county about, well, the county found out we may widen it. So they've drugged their feet on potentially widening it or fixing the bridge. And we've kind of done the opposite. We've slowed down our Phase 5, hoping that the county spends some money to fix it. And actually the county is looking at so in that area, the waterway, Clark's Creek, comes through and then it comes back around. So it's the same piece. So the county's looking at actually redirecting the stream to actually run across the Larkin property, which is a super nice custom home. And so that there are no bridges actually on Dan Jones Road and that the water would just stay on the east side of Dan Jones. So if the county can work that out, that takes a lot of permitting, which takes a lot of time. So the county may just be doing that. They may not be dragging their feet. That may be their route they're trying to go, which at point they get to eliminate 2 bridges. So again, that's fine. From our standpoint, beyond Fairwood is of less value to us. Now, Plainfield will probably be upset with us that we're not continuing all the way down to Plainfield Christian, but that's not really our fault. So breaking down that segment into a smaller piece, instead of it being 17 million, we think it would be in the 8 million-ish range, 8 to 9 million probably. So then again, if we do our application, typically we go in and apply at either 80-20 or 70-30 as our match. So, you know, we're looking at $3 million, $2-3 million for construction plus design and whatever right-of-way acquisition costs. Again, we shouldn't have a ton of right-of-way acquisition costs down there because most of the right-of-way has already been dedicated. We'll have a little bit probably, but it shouldn't be a substantial right-of-way acquisition effort. So again, I gave you the 17 million to scare you to understand we can't afford that. That's not what we're recommending to apply for. The exhibit you're showing, Dawn, you're exactly right. It shows it going to the second entrance of Fairwood and basically stopping.
This doesn't go all the way down to the point where it turns back and forth.
Correct. So there'd still be a piece from Fairwood to Plainfield Christian Church that would still be 2 lanes.
That's an accident waiting to happen.
Not allowed to say that. Right, Dan? Not allowed to say that. What would,
Yeah, hey guys, don't forget if you're speaking, if you don't mind, because we are live streaming, turn on your microphones, sorry.
What would the solution be then? That, I mean, we're getting beat up over the bridge, but that made sense. This wouldn't make sense. Why would we, that's like 200 feet, 500 feet.
No, it's pretty far.
No.
Yeah, it's much further than that.
Because
Yeah, fair enough. You got still the dip.
Yeah, it's pretty,
Okay.
it's a chunk, but it's not,
It's still not okay.
I mean,
it's geographically and economically feasible to do it in 2 sections rather than 1.
Sure, yeah, sure.
We can
and we're not saying we wouldn't ever do it. We're just saying we wouldn't do it as part of this phase,
We're still, okay. So we're then talking a 3rd phase,
a 6th phase.
or, sure.
And we have a 7th and an 8th, which would go north. So we're just splitting that phase into 2 phases instead of 1 to make it financially feasible. So our
Got it.
defense is going to be, we can afford doing the full section. We can only afford to do this section.
Got it.
And eventually we'll do the next one. We're not saying we'll never do it.
The other side of it is you had indicated that the county may extend Clark's Creek, and the county's responsible for those bridges. So,
That was actually my other question.
but there was talk about.
Right now, the counties are responsible for that bridge. I understand legislation's changed that, where we may be in charge of some bridges. Will these 2 bridges become our responsibility regardless of this change? Or as a part of this change, or will that matter?
Not under the current statute, but remember the county's position is if we do a project, we do the bridge.
Sure.
So again, I mean, the other option is we could have a conversation about if the county wants to do a joint project and take it all the way down and see if the county is willing to contribute. My understanding from the county is they're putting all their money into the completion of the Reagan Parkway. So I don't know that they'd be willing to do it. And we know how that's gone in the past when we've gone to the county and asked for money for what they view as town of Avon projects. It typically doesn't go real well for us, but
We could conceivably, and Dan's probably gonna stop me, but we could conceivably make a twin bridge and do our new 2 lanes on the new bridge and then exclude the other bridge, existing bridge, and that way we're not paying.
Force
for
their
it.
hand.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, that's a possibility.
So is this $9 or $10 million that you're talking about, or even the 17 million that's showing on here? Is that today's numbers, or is that the 2031 numbers?
no, that's projected. So that's what you'll notice. That was when we looked at doing it, when applying for it in federal fiscal year 2028. So when we do our MPO applications, we actually have to project inflation out to the year of construction. And we actually apply for the inflated number to the MPO. So that is, now this number is showing 2028. So when we do an application for whatever we apply for, we'll have to inflate that. So it'll be of some higher number. But again, so yes, we account for inflation based on construction year.
So what's our chances of getting the Exhibit C, the Avon White Creek Trail Phase 5 approved?
So again, there's 4 funding categories at the MPO. There's STBG, which is typically like capacity and road widening projects. There's TA, which is transportation alternative, which is trails typically. There is what's called HSIP, which is safety projects. And there's CMAC, which is air quality. So last year, we actually applied for this White Lake Creek Phase 5 concept. So this exhibit we gave, we threw it together really fast. And so the cost of it was super expensive. I think what Shelby and I have talked about is we'd probably reduce it down and it would be a single trail. So we'd choose one route through the park. What we actually applied for last year was everything in red. We probably would not this year apply for everything in red. Like I said, we just pick a route. It'll be the main route down through the park and connect in the bridge. What we really want to get to is the bridge. So we are planning to bring to you guys an approval to start the design of the bridge over White Lake Creek. Well, at some point, we have to make a decision. Are we going a federal aid route or are we going a local route? The design criteria and the things we have to do are very different for those 2 different options. So we really need to make a decision, and that's applying for this application and seeing if we can get it would be that probably decision-making criteria. Otherwise, we're gonna have to pay for that bridge locally. So I think that's the way we would approach it. It probably wouldn't be 5 million. But again, that trail project wouldn't compete with the Dan Jones Road project because it would be in a different funding category. So what we're actually showing you is several projects that are in different funding categories. So the widening would be STBG, which is the capacity. The trail project would be a TA project. I think we were fourth on the list last year, but we were behind the cultural trail and we were behind the Monon, which were both huge trail projects. But now those have cleared. I think we were either third or fourth. So if we reduce our size of our project and we score a little better, that I think we would have the potential to potentially get that funded.
You mentioned the new scoring requirement. You seem to be familiar enough that you could give us an estimate of, you think the Dan Jones one would score like 100 using the new criteria and shot from the hip on what you would expect this trail proposal to be?
I don't know the new criteria because the new criteria hasn't even been created yet. Under the old criteria last year, this one scored like a 70.
You gave 100 to Dan Jones. Was that using the old criteria?
That was using the old criteria, which the old criteria is when we apply this year, the old criteria is applied. And that's why I have some uncertainty. I don't know what the new criteria will look like. This scored like a 70 last year.
With the total, the giant.
Correct, right, yes. So it doesn't score as well. And that's what, like the cultural trail and the Monon were like 92s and 94s. And so they scored much better than our segment of trail, which again, you would expect based on the size of those trails and the number of people that they impact. Those are the kind of things that drive your scoring. So
Back to my question, say, pick one. I'm give you a rough estimate what you think that score might be if we just do the one. You said it was 70 last year for this whole thing. What do you think the one project? What's our likelihood of success is what I'm trying to get after. Chasing this project.
Yeah, I don't know that I remember that criteria very well. We don't apply for a lot of TA funds. The only projects we've ever gotten TA funds for are the White Lake Creek trails. So I don't have as much confidence in knowing that exact number. Sorry.
That's not to, please don't let that construe like lack of desire for this project. That's
Right.
just, all right, is it worth chasing this bucket of money or is it worth investing the time in elsewhere? That's all.
Right. So just to give you a little context, an application would probably cost us $3,000 to $3,500. If we were to be awarded the project, we may get $3 million. So my opinion is worth the effort. At some point though, like I said, we have to make a decision. Are we going, like we're going to pay for it locally, or are we going to go down a federal pathway, which the cost is probably 20% more to go that path. But if you're getting the 80%, that makes it worthwhile, right? Like, so, but at some point we have to make that decision. And then the third and final one, you guys may recall that is the County Road 600 East and County Road 100 North. So this is actually an East and Gray project. And so those of you who've been around for a while, one of the best ways we were able to accomplish a lot of the roundabouts and road projects we've done is we would get infrastructure contributions. We would take those infrastructure contributions and match them to the federal projects. So that's kind of the thought with this roundabout. It's not needed right now. It's eventually going to be needed as the next future sections of East and Gray start to get built. And over time, East and Gray has to provide us infrastructure contributions to pay for this. But if we could get a grant for it, that would essentially taxpayers could get away from having to pay anything because the infrastructure contributions would pay our match to whatever we got for the federal grant. So again, getting in the pipeline, applying for that now. This one, I think, would we decide, Steve? CMAQ probably? We said CMAQ and STBG maybe? And or HSIP. So again, we'd hit it.
Sean, there's been accidents here. You work with those flashing Southwood signs there for sure. So that highway safety improvement should qualify, I think, based on our accident history here. So that would help us to get funded. But if we don't get funded this year, we apply this year, that gives us more points when we apply the next year because you get points for having applied before. So let's get it in the system. Let's apply for it. If we get the money, great. If we don't, at least we're in the system.
So the same could be said then for the park project. because we applied last year.
Right, it may score better this year, right?
Well, that's sort of an Easton Gray project as well, I mean, it's right there.
It is. And again, it's our park, it's a trail through our park, so again, it's an extra bonus. And again, there's TIF money, so the actual final payment mechanism for that bridge is when we do the bond for, or when the TIF district for the HOPA district, they are keeping 60%, we're gonna get 40%. So that 40% will be what we use to pay for the bridge. But if I can use that 40% as my match, instead of using that 40% to pay for the entire project, well, now maybe I can use that 40% to also develop Summerlot Park instead of eating it all up just to pay for the bridge. So I think that's the thought process of let's be creative and use what money we have to the best ability we have and get the most out of it.
Personal opinion, I say park in the roundabout. And Dan Jones, we wait and see what the county's gonna do on those bridges, if they're able to route it on the east side of the road, wait another year on that.
So Dawn, I'm gonna try to change your opinion.
Okay,
So right now it scores really well with this system. I'm not saying it's a sure thing, but it's, if I was bet, I'd bet on it. When the things change for the next year, it may not score so well. And we're talking about reducing the scope in order to keep the bridges, to keep that expense down, and to get the project still approved. And so I would recommend going for all three, knowing that you may not get all three, but if you do, well, that's a good problem to have, I guess. But this one here, Dan Jones States High, I believe is something that, since we're tearing it down, and that's the whole thing, we're avoiding those bridges. I think that'd be a decent one to go after, and again, because it's gonna score so well. I don't know, what do you think, Brian?
I'm just worried about when it comes back and narrows back down. That's my concern.
Yeah, so,
Well, I get it. So the one thing may be, well, next year we may be coming back and asking to fund Dan Jones Phase 6, which would be the next one, which is no different really than like what we're doing on Dan Jones now. We're doing a segment and then we're coming back. I get it. It's the same in a single mile segment, so it's feels a little different from a public perception standpoint, but it's really no different than what we're doing on the other segments of Dan Jones.
Could we afford this? You just let us know. We're worried about overspending TIF fund, TIF reserves, and we've got to have chunks of cash to pay the match on this. If we apply for all three and get all three, are we going to be able to afford the match on all three?
Yes, because they're all three would be different sources. So that's the thing, that's kind of how we've come up with the recommendation. So that project would get paid for out of infrastructure contribution. The trail project would get paid from food and beverage and from eventual future TIF funds from Easton Gray. Dan Jones would get paid for out of the Avon Economic Development Area TIF. So that's what we're hitting, different pots of money. So yes, we think we can afford to apply for all three. Again, we may not get all three, but I think to Steve's point, the one that's the most likely for us to get is Dan Jones 5. And again, I understand the concern about it, and it's not wrong. You're not wrong about that, but that is also the project we have the best likelihood of getting funded.
What would our match be on that? We don't know.
Yeah, that's what I don't have that exact number yet. Once we put together the application, we can share that with you guys on what exactly it was. It doesn't come back to you. And that's what the application really, we don't necessarily need approval from you guys, but the council president signs a letter that says if we are awarded it, that we have the funds to do it. And so I'm happy to share that with you guys. It's not anything to hide. I will just tell you, like, we work up to, there's like a deadline for those applications. And sometimes like Don and Greg and anyone who's Robert, when he was council president, you guys know, like the day before, I'm like, can you come in? I have to have you sign this letter. We're trying to get the application out the door, but I'm happy. Structure Point has already started on it. We've talked to them about putting together the application. So I may be able to get an estimate out earlier and still share with you guys.
It would just be nice to have an idea of what that number is.
What's the worst case? What's the worst case match that they give us, 50-50?
No, typically they'll give us whatever. We've not gotten anything as bad as 50-50. Now, we have, one of the scoring criteria is, are you willing to contribute more than the 20%? So that the federal grant is 80-20. A lot of times we go in and apply 70-30 because we get like 5 extra points for saying we're willing to do. I mean, we've done 75-25 just so that we get those points. Like, we'll do what we have to do to try to get the points to get it funded. Correct.
I was trying to put it.
I try to refine them. Yes.
What did we do last time when we submitted, we got a score of 100? What did we say we'd do?
Well, if you guys remember, that's what on Dan Jones 2, we had actually said 70-30. But when we came to award it, the MPO had extra money and they funded it at 80-20, even though we asked for 70-30. The Waste Rate Road project, we did the same thing. It was 70-30, but when our bids came in lower, the MPO funded it at 80-20, even though I applied for it at 70-30.
You can look at somebody that.
But we don't know. If we go in saying 70-30, we're committing ourselves to 30.
I'd like to do 80-20 if we can, but we have to keep moving ahead because the TIF money is going to go away.
Mhm.
If
And that's the other
TIF
thing.
money goes away, then the projects go away.
Right.
And like you said, these are 3 different projects from 3 different sources of funds. I'm fine with moving ahead.
Yeah, my opinion, you'll get that money.
Okay. And again, I'm
You can fall off
happy to share.
90-10,
pull
we'll
it.
take that too.
Well, and that's HSIP is 90-10. So like if we can qualify for HSIP, we'll go that route because it is 90-10. The safety money is normally the money that's the least competitive because there's just not projects out there that meet safety. So if we can hit safety, we'll hit safety.
And the only thing is that last year, they actually used the HSIP money for roundabout.
Correct, right.
So that's not normal.
Okay. Any other topics or questions, comments?
If you guys don't have anything, I have 2 things I want to give you a quick heads up on. Sorry, I know you guys are tired of me talking. 2 things that have come to my attention over the last week. One, I met with a company called Joink on Joink on Monday. They are a private fiber optic internet service provider. And they have chosen, they're out of Terre Haute. They have chosen to extend fiber internet to the entire town of Avon. And then when I say entire town of Avon, I'll lump in Washington Township as well. And Danville. Unfortunately, we don't have a choice. They're going to go in the right of way and they have a right to go in the right of way. But they're going to start here. They're looking at buying the piece of property just across from Moody Meats. And they would start there. They'd put a building there. And then they'd start with probably Sycamore Creek, Stratford of Avon, Oak Bend, and extend fiber optic service. So there is no fiber optic service in Avon. So right now, the only thing we have is Xfinity, which there may be some components of it, but most of it's going through coax, not fiber optics. It may, as the trunk line, be fiber, but at some point, as it's distributing to homes, it's probably not fiber. Am I wrong, Robert?
Yes and no. There's fiber here. Endeavor pushes it, and it's mostly on the west and southwest side of Avon.
Correct.
And nobody's going to get true fiber to their home. Nobody's going to afford that. You're going to be putting a business to put like true fiber all the way down to your home. So I'm nitpicking on your words.
Well,
You'll get.
I'm only sharing what he.
To a neighborhood, but you're not going to get it down into the neighborhood. Is what you're saying, and that's what I'm nitpicking on.
Well-
They're not doing that anywhere. That's just way too costly. That's just way too expensive. But getting fiber to the entrance to my neighborhood, that's what I want. And I don't know why I don't have it yet. So this is very interesting.
Okay.
This is gonna be very
Well, I may
interesting.
ask that question because they literally showed me the plans and they showed handholds and that they were taking fiber directly to people's houses.
Okay.
Now, they told me it's a $35 million investment and it'll take the next 9 months to do it. And they also told me that probably what typically,
Are they hiring?
I don't know. And so Steve's already been prepped. I think they've actually reached out to Paul and Linda. They seem really organized. I don't know anything about this company, but some of you may recall that this happened in Fishers and up on the north side and some people had problems with it. So I warned them of that we would kind of be on top of them and they can't go through and tear up our neighborhoods. And they're literally running fiber optic through every single street on every single neighborhood. Again, Robert, I'm just telling you what they told me. I'm not saying it's You can pull up Joink and Google them, and
Why don't you and Robert get with them when you talk, because Robert knows more about it than I
that's
do.
fine. But I more wanted to give you guys a heads up because there may be a public issue now. They still have to go through our permitting. They got to get right-of-way permits. You guys may recall our right-of-way permits. We have a per lineal foot charge for services like this. I gave them a heads up on that. It's going to be incredibly expensive to get all their permits through the town. So you may remember a company came in a couple years ago and just ran fiber, like Robert said, ran some fiber optic along the main roads. And I want to say we brought in $70,000 worth of revenue from that. Now, it was a pain. Our staff, it takes a lot of time. We have to babysit them. We have to tell them to clean up. We got to chase them. But if they're doing that in all the neighborhoods, it could be a mess. So I wanted to share that with you and give you a heads up. That's number one. Number two, Bill kindly brought to my attention, there was a meeting that took place at the county, or actually, was it at the fairgrounds, Betsy? The stormwater meeting? Okay. So if you guys recall, on our stormwater side, we participate in Hendricks County Clean Water. And as part of our MS4, which is clean water, we have to do public education. So we contribute to the Hendricks County Clean Water. They go into schools, they do educational things, explain to people how clean water works. So we attended a meeting last week that we thought was going to be educational for our HOAs about what they should do with their retention ponds. Well, what ended up happening was they provided some misinformation to our neighborhoods. So I know, sorry, Bill, Bill has already reached out to me because people are reaching out to him. The information they provided at this meeting was not correct. And so if you get neighborhoods that reach out to you and say they're losing their minds and they think that they have to maintain swales, drainage pipes, all of those things, they do not. That's what people pay their stormwater utility fee for, is the town stormwater utility maintains those things. So I wanted to give you guys a heads up because I've had a couple of neighborhoods reach out to me. And again, I know some people reached out to Bill as well. So if people reach out to you guys, that information was inaccurate. We've reached out to the county. Unfortunately, Betsy was there, but Betsy went to listen, didn't know. Nobody shared with us what the presentation was going to be. And we had no idea that's what they were going to do. And so, again, I just want to give you guys a heads up that nothing is changing. They are still responsible for the maintenance of their ponds, which is what they're responsible for now. And they're responsible for mowing their ponds. They're responsible for trying to avoid getting chemicals in their ponds. They are responsible for picking up trash in their ponds. And that's all part of their clean water stuff, but they are not responsible for the infrastructure. So if people reach out to you, please say that information was wrong, and we'll work with the county and figure out what went wrong there. We've heard other towns are upset about it as well, and that the information was not accurate. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up on those two issues because you may hear stuff about them. I'll be quiet now.
Thank you. Anyone else? Meeting adjourned. We'll go ahead and call the October 9th Town Council meeting to order, and we will rise for the pledge, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Julie, roll call, please.
Robert Pope,
Present.
Bill Holland, Susan,
Present.
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 Okay, we have a quorum, so we'll move forward with item 2, consent agenda. Comments, questions? It's you. Okay. If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Julie, roll call, please.
Robert Pope,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Bill Holland.
4.
Next is the first opportunity for public comment. The public may comment on items on the agenda that are not part of a public hearing or on a specific matter within the council's jurisdiction. If you'd like to come forward, please make sure the microphone is on at the podium. State your name and address. No one coming forward, so we'll close the public comment and move on to department updates.
Steve Moore, Public Works Director. First thing I want to talk about is community crossings. We're well into the construction. We're probably about 4 weeks away from getting done. The biggest thing we're doing right now is on Avon Avenue, south of US 36, doing some widening there and curbs. We're going to do 200 North off of Ronald Reagan, which is one of our worst sections of pavement. And so that'll be a huge improvement there. Got striping to go yet in some neighborhoods. You know, we've got it paved. We're doing the reclamite on it now. They swept the sand from some of the neighborhoods today. Some of our staff were asking about that, and they haven't been home yet to see that their neighborhood's probably been swept. Let's see what else. Yeah, pavement markers are coming, like I said. Raceway roundabout, a lot of utility work to be done. There's some that has been done. A lot of commitments to be done this year yet, and with one, with the water company wanting to do theirs right ahead of our start of construction next spring, but it's looking more and more promising that we'll have all the utility work done in time. The 900 Angelina Way, the Costco roundabout, if you will, great strides there. Concrete is almost done on the curb. Then they have the truck apron to go, and then more paving. The lights will be installed in the next couple weeks. Sidewalks too. So that's all going really well.
Projected completion date or not?
Well, I'm going to do the safe thing and say, you know, before Thanksgiving. I might think sooner, but I'm going to say I'm going to be safe. So yeah, it'll be done before Thanksgiving. Dan Jones widening phase 3, a lot of utility relocations going on right now, a lot of activity there. But again, a lot of good stuff happening so that when we do start construction after we bid it, it hopefully won't have any delays because of utilities. Dan Jones phase 4's design's going well. We're probably again about 40% in the design phase there. The CCMG call for projects is due October 31st. It's reduced this year to 1 million, like it had been in the past. It's back down to 1 million. Still good money to get. 50 cents on the dollar to do work, right? We're going to submit. We met with HWC and we walked some roads, and they're getting us some estimates done, and they'll do the design on. For sure, we're going to do 200 South between 450 and 500, 525, whatever it is. That's the new route, the main route to the new middle school. So most of the buses will be going through there. And so we're now doing some calculations to see what method we're going to use to repair it. And then any money left over, we'll pick up some of the other roads that we had to cut from last year.
If we applied for $1 million, do we have the $1 million match?
Well, I know a councilman who usually promises me that, he'll make sure everybody's on board to get us the $1 million match. So I'm pretty sure.
Let me know who that person is.
No, we have around $1 million in our annual budget. Not quite that, but then we have other funds that we move around in order, if we get $1 million, we'll have the match. We'll find it. See, stormwater utility doing some design for some drainage improvements over and off of Pine Tree. Then on reports, we have potholes. Keaton and Eli used 21 bags of cold patch around town. MS4 inspections, Drew and Eli. They did 97 inspections, which is kind of funny. It's been like 95 to 97 each month, so I think they're on some type of a schedule. No fines were assessed this time. Betsy collected $4,900 in permit fees for 14 permits, and she collected $22,700 in accident reimbursement money. So people knock stuff down, and she pursues it until we get reimbursed. So good on Betsy. Keaton and Eli conducted 20 right-of-way inspections. Eli installed 16 signs, and that's pretty much it. Any questions?
When do the asphalt plants close for the year?
They usually close right around Thanksgiving. Last year, it wasn't until like Christmas time. So, I mean, it was a little different. So, but yeah, right around Thanksgiving is when they want to close down, and some of them do regardless, but yeah.
So you think our current projects?
Oh, yeah,
They'll be
we'll
done.
be
They'll be
fine.
done.
Yeah, we'll be fine. Yeah.
On the current projects that we've gotten paved now, when are the lines, the markings, the turn arrows, when are they going to be completed?
They've been doing them like Red Oak and 100 North. They got theirs done. I think they avoided Sycamore Creek on purpose. I think they're the lowest priority neighborhood, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they pick and choose. Seriously, they come out and I don't even know where they're going to go. It's like they did some of the arrows on 100 North and Avon Ave. I wish they would have done the long lines there, but they didn't. That's a different crew and they're somewhere else. So I'm begging, and pleading for them to come back and get these done, and they're getting them bits and pieces.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? Thanks.
Thank you, Steve.
Good evening, Linda Albrand, Planning Director. I'll start with the BZA. September, BZA approved an expansion to Harlan Bakeries, an expansion to the Advanced Auto that's in front of where Red Curb used to be, and a privacy fence for the Village Place Townhomes. Coming up for the BZA will be a special exception for the Chase Bank here at Avon Ave and US 36. They're taking out their building and rebuilding, and they have to get a new special exception for the drive-through reconfiguration. The September Plan Commission approved the Ray Skillman Mazda dealership, so that one is now fully in the works. The October Plan Commission, we will see again that Avon Avenue convenience store up at the old car wash. We have not heard anything on that, so we're not confident in that it will go forward. We have a proposal for the 3 lots, commercial lots that are vacant on Park Place. So at the entrance of Park Place, there's 3 lots on the west side of the road. So we have a proposal for a commercial building. And then we also have a commitment modification for the reserve at Shiloh Creek, Section 2, which is the annexation that you'll be accepting tonight. For November Plan Commission, again, that the Chase Bank will be in for a drive-through or total new development if the drive-through is approved. And then we have a new welcome center coming to the Gibbs Park through Washington Township Parks. One other thing we've been working on in the planning department is we noticed that one of the commercial establishments along US 36 pulled out all of their landscaping, basically to make their building a little more visible, make their sign a little bit more visible. We caught them, told them they had to go back and install the landscaping per the plan, but then I started looking at other businesses up and down 36 and was surprised at how many I found that have done the same thing. So we've started enforcement on that, on 4 of them so far, and getting their landscaping reinstalled and put back in after it's been removed. So you should see 36 being spruced up a little bit. That's what I have for today. Any questions?
No, thank you, Linda.
Good evening, Shelby Pride, Parks and Recreation Director. Is that better? I'm so short. I don't have too much tonight. I want to give kudos to my staff. We pulled off another Harvest Hay Rides event this past Saturday here at Town Hall Park. It was 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. I would guesstimate probably between 1,700 and 2,000 people here total. So the biggest of that event that we've had. So we just continue to grow, add new things. This year we had the Apple Mash Dash, which was a 5K just before that event. We had 167 participants in that. So that was awesome. We did a pumpkin drop. So kids could purchase the small pie pumpkins, nothing like gigantic, and then climb up a tower and drop their pumpkins down. So to watch their faces do that was really cool. And we want to thank All Terrain, who was our main sponsor for that and drove all of the hay wagons all around the park for 4 hours. I have continued my biweekly meetings with Context. Construction documents for Winton Meadows, Burnett Park, and Pickleball are 100% complete. So I will be hoping to bring you guys bids in November. That's our timeline so far.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thanks, Shelby.
Good evening, Sean Stoops, Chief of Police. Our 3 officers that are currently in the academy, Officer Moore, Chesser, and Bussey, they're all doing well. Just checked in with them today. They weren't kicked out yet, so that's good. They're on track to graduate on December 12th. Not that they were in danger of being kicked out, but one of them actually told me, things are good. We're not kicked out yet, so that's good. We're also participating again this year in the Santa Cops Toy Drive. Last year it was very successful to the point where we started running out of room for toys. And then when all of the other law enforcement agencies took the toys down to the academy for delivery, they almost had to get us another room because we filled up a room about this size with toys. So that kicks off tomorrow. So we're going to be accepting donations at the town or at the police department. People can also sign up there if they want to receive some of those benefits from those toys. And we'll be collecting toys until December 15th. So if anybody wants to donate, they can just come into the admin area there and donate. Our next merit board meeting is October 13th, next Monday at 7 p.m. Not much on that agenda. We're going to be handing out a couple awards. Other than that, that will be most of the business for that meeting. Deputy Chief Margison's in the process of completing on the installation on the equipment on our 8 vehicles that we picked up last month. He's got 3 of those already completed. They've been issued, and he's working on the rest of those to try to get those in service as soon as possible. Our hiring process is still underway as the pre-application process is still open. So if you or you know someone that might be interested in joining our department, that process will be open until November 1st is when the testing is. So all the way up through the end of October, they can still apply, do the pre-application, go to the town's website, click on the police tab, and then once you're there, it will guide you through that process and how to do that. So if you know anybody or you'd like to look into doing that, please visit our website and check that out. Just a couple notable things on the monthly stats. If you look at our average for 2024 of how many calls for service per month, you'll see there that we were just over 1,200 for an average for the whole year 2024. This year to date, we're averaging about 1,560 some calls for service per month. So that's a substantial increase. So with that you're going to probably see some of those other numbers go up. Another notable stat is our OWI arrest for this month. We had 9 officers that most of those arrests came from, and those occurred on the night shift mostly, and they were responsible for 20 arrests in 1 month alone. So for as long as I can remember, I don't think we ever had that many in 1 month, but I think it's a good show of their proactive policing, that they're taking initiatives to go out there and try to address any aggressive driving, and as well as impaired in driving as well. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Sean.
I'll go next. Last but not least, Julie Loker, treasurer. Mine might actually be a little lengthy tonight. I want to thank the park staff. I was one of the 100 and something people that participated in the Apple Mash Dash 5K on Saturday. What Shelby forgot to mention was it was a costume event, and I ran the 5K as Olaf. So it was really fun. They did a great job. I was actually the first child to smash a pumpkin. So that was that was also very fun. They had a lot of vendors. Everything was great. All terrain was fantastic. They were just on it with the hay rides, and it was a great event. With that being said, I'll move on to my stuff. We didn't have a quorum at the last meeting. And the meeting before that, I was out of town, so I didn't get to update you on the audit. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Now that it is published, I don't know if any of you have gone on to look at it. It was a very successful audit. They had 0 findings, which makes me very happy with the RDA and as well as the town. So we had 0 findings. When you have 0 findings like that, it does help with your bond ratings. It helps with a lot of different things. And it just basically tells you guys that I am doing my job like I'm supposed to be doing it. The auditors were our attorney, Dan Taylor was there, and Robert also was there in the exit conference. They can tell you more what was said, but they were very complimentary. Not to sound like I'm patting my own back, but they were very complimentary, so which made me happy. With that being said, you guys, I know, don't realize a lot of the things I do in my job. So I just wanted to give you one of the small things that I do as being the treasurer for the town. So back in 2019, December of 2019, our money was sitting in several different banks. When I took over, coming from a banking background into this position, I'm a shopper. I went to all the different banks and give me my statement. What's your rate? What are we doing? How are we growing the town's money so that we're making money on our money? So I shopped around. So just so you know, in December of 2019, for the entire year, from all the banks that we were bank at, we made $287,000 in interest income. On average since then, and I shop all the time. It's not an annual thing, it's a monthly thing. I have moved our money from bank to bank to bank, and I use them against each other and play against each other to get the best rate possible. As of September 30th of this year, we have made $1.2 million in interest income on our funds just by shopping around and going from bank to bank. On top of that 1.2 million, last year we made over 1.4 million in interest income. And on the American Rescue Plan money that we are using to build the Civic Center, by shopping around, the town has received $171,000 in interest income that went specifically toward the ARP money that is helping build the Civic Center, just free money. just by doing a little thing, shopping around bank to bank and getting the best rate. So bringing in well over $1 million each year for the town, I don't say it's free money, but I like to grow the town's money, and it's one of the things that I want you to know that I'm doing for the town and you guys to help grow our funds. Free money, who doesn't love it? So every month, I'll try and give you guys a new little insight into what I do so that you're more aware of all the job responsibilities that I have.
Thank you. Anyone else? I think that's all our department heads, unless you've got something, Ryan. Okay, moving on to council comment and liaison reports. Bill, anything on your end?
The only thing I have is Julie, thank you. That's a great job. Thank you very much. So,
Right?
Linda already touched on it. It was the 9/22 Plan Commission meeting.
Nothing new for me tonight.
The only thing I would share is, now that I think I'm allowed to share, is I don't know that Julie's doing an entirely accurate job. The entrance interview. Fair enough. Very positive. That's not positive enough.
The report is unqualified, no comments, which is fantastic. No comments, no findings, we can say that, we can say what the report says.
Roger that. Thanks, Dan. Nothing further.
Thank
Do you
you.
think that the written report reflected clean audit?
Sure,
Attaboy.
sure.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Nothing for me to report. I was on vacation. Moving on to new business, accepting the annexation petition from J.R. Lazaro. Are you speaking to that?
Yeah, I'll speak to it. If you guys, hopefully you guys are familiar with J.R. Lazaro Builders, but John is an Avon resident and has built several developments in Avon. He's currently building Shiloh Creek Estates, which is on County Road 1050 East and 100 North. Several years ago when he started, he had that section annexed into Avon. There's a section 2 just south of it. There's a kind of a creek that divides it. So he originally had the northern piece annexed. He now is interested in having the southern piece annexed because he's interested in developing it. So I know we're happy to have him to be willing to be part of Avon. He's a great builder and has been great to our community. He serves on a lot of our committees and stuff. So very excited that he's willing to be annexed as well. So you guys just need to accept the petition in order for us to start that process. Happy to answer any questions.
Make a
Questions?
motion that we accept the annexation petition as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Julie, roll call, please.
Robert Pope,
4.
Bill Holland,
4.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Moving on to awarding the quote for the sidewalk removal and replacement.
Steve had somewhere to go, so I asked him to do his report. I said I'd handle this item for him, but you guys have a memo from Keaton, actually. You'll recall a couple meetings ago, we had the sawing contract, so there's really 2 contracts we typically do for ADA compliance, and the sawing one is to cut them off, but sometimes if that lip is too big or whatever, we actually have to remove, replace. And so this contract that's on your agenda tonight is to remove, replace. So that means the sidewalk is too far out of compliance that the sawing really isn't an option. It would weaken the sidewalk. So again, just as a reminder, that the sawing, I think we'll do 3 entire neighborhoods and it costs like $10,000. These remove replaces, we're only doing 12 segments of sidewalk and it's $15,700. So again, we try to do the sawing that helps extend taxpayers' money to try to be efficient, but we do have to address some of these as well. Holsnick was the low quote on these sidewalks. Holsnick does a lot of our stormwater maintenance, has worked for us since the town came into existence, and has done a really good job for us. So it is our recommendation that you guys approve the quote of Holsnick for $15,700. Happy to answer any questions.
You don't indicate where this is located. Where is this address?
It's 12 different locations. They're spread out all over town. It's not one single location. So these would be any complaints we had that came in throughout town. and we kind of put together one contract. So I'm sorry, Greg, I don't know the specific neighborhoods, but it's probably 6 or 7 different neighborhoods. It's not just a single location.
I move we award the ADA sidewalk replacement project to Holschnick Enterprises in the amount of $15,700 as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Julie, roll call, please.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Bill Holland.
4.
Next is Resolution 2025-28, the amendment to the Town of Avon Comp Plan.
Good evening again, Linda Albrand, Planning Director. You have before you tonight the resolution for the adoption of the amendment to your comprehensive plan. Just wanted to go over a few points on how we got here tonight. As you know, the comprehensive plan is a long-range guide for community growth and development. It lists out objectives for the future, policies for land use and rezonings throughout the town, policies for public ways. It is used by town staff, the BZA, the Plan Commission, and council when making decisions on property throughout the town. And then it also sets forth visions and goals for other projects that are not just the future land use map. And they then prioritizes some of those steps that we would want to take once it's adopted going forward. How did we get to this point again? We began in April 2024. If you recall, my first day on the job was our kickoff meeting in March, and that began the process. We've gone through community engagement, the online survey, public workshop, focus group discussions, pop-up events, and the project website. We had a steering committee of 18 members, 2 of which are here with us tonight. That steering committee held 7 meetings, and they are the ones that came to the consensus on the draft that you are asked to approve tonight. We had a public presentation at a special meeting of the Plan Commission on July 14th. And then the Plan Commission on August 25th held the public hearing for this as required by state statute. They voted 6-0 to forward a favorable recommendation to the town council. And then on the September 11th work session of this council, we gave a brief presentation of the document. So now tonight, the steering committee, the Plan Commission, and staff are requesting your favorable consideration of the comprehensive plan draft that was previously forwarded to you. I also have Rachel Christensen here with HWC. If you have any specific questions, she represents the consultant on the project. So if you have any questions, Rachel or I will be happy to answer them for you.
I know it's been an extensive project, and I thank all the people that participated in all the meetings and all the time and energy that went into it. For those in the audience, for the meetings that I attended, I know you all know, and I said in the last meeting that the only problem that I have with this plan as it sits here before us is that southwest corridor. And again, I'm just going to be on record that we as a community, as a council, and as our other taxing entities all got together and went and knocked on doors in that corridor, which included the township, the library board, the school board, and 3 council members seated still here today. And we told those people that if you annex in our vision for your area while we are still seated is to keep that rural agriculture, estate type areas. And I'm not comfortable with going back on my word to those people. I stood in their homes. I spoke with them. I gave them my word, and I'm not comfortable with backing away from that. With that said, I'm one vote. And I think that the rest of the plan is a good plan, so I'm not saying that we should scrap this and start over, but I'm asking for consideration of that one area and at least putting on record that I'm opposed to the way that it currently shows that area in this plan. And then I'll just talk to everyone else, can say their opinions on anything.
Rachel, can you speak to the concerns that Dawn addressed in our last meeting about the Greenway District real quick?
Me or Rachel?
Rachel? Either one. It doesn't matter to me. I just know Rachel discussed it with us last time.
I think like Linda said, we had a steering committee, of course, that we talked through this. We had some very good discussions about this, a particular area that Dawn, we were in those meetings together. They were tough discussions where there were multiple sides of the table and I think this was the way that the steering committee as a whole decided to move forward. So that was what was reflected in the plan as it stands right now, if you guys were to adopt it.
And this is on the map, the brown agricultural residential area.
It's the area, I think it is, I'm gonna have to flip to it. Do you know?
I'm looking at 152.
Thank you. That's helpful. I just want to make sure I'm. Yeah. The southwest, right, there is a mix of ag and parks and open space in the far southwest corner. We had previously during the steering committee meetings, I think originally had that as residential because we were talking about not having agriculture as a land use classification anymore for in town. But then it was decided after we talked about, we had a land use workshop. We presented it to the steering committee. The steering committee said, we're not really comfortable with getting rid of ag because we think if we say it's slated for residential in the future, that we could get some development that maybe isn't the type of development that we want currently because it will have larger lots or lots that just are not planned well for the future. And so we scaled it back and said, okay, we'll go back to ag. And we thought that was a better way to preserve this area for the future so that when it is time to go full residential, then it can develop in that way, in a more appropriate way. Does that help answer that question about the ag and?
What were you envisioning this being classified as, Dawn?
Just what we promised those people when we knocked on their doors, which was that it would stay kind of an agriculture district over there and larger. I think at the time we used the word estate size lots.
So if we were to change this to say agricultural designation, what would that process look like?
I think we're talking about two closely linked areas. So I think, Dawn, are you talking about the area around the school?
Talking about, there was no school at the time.
Right.
So I'm talking about down there off of 425, which was just south of the railroad track, taking in those two farms, the Elmore's farm, and I forget the other people. I forget their name on the other farm, and then Liberty Meadows specifically, and then going across 100 South down to continuing south of the school even.
Okay. So, right, Dawn's talking about this area up here, and the one that I just talked to you about was down here.
Okay.
So this area is right now pointed out as residential on this map.
Brown as well.
I would like it to be what we told those people it would be. That's what I would like to do.
So can I maybe share one thing? And I know Dawn's heard this because I've shared this with Dawn as well. So remember, there's a difference between zoning and what's in the comp plan.
Yes.
So the comp plan's showing a recommendation of residential around that area. The underlying zoning of those properties are still agricultural. So no matter what we put into this plan, those estate lots is still the existing zoning. What you're putting in the comp plan isn't changing that. So that's the difference. we are, on the comp plan side, we are trying to plan because there is water and sewer to that area. So the potential is that that may eventually develop as residential, which is more so than the area to the south, which is in brown, which is why the steering committee said, we think that should stay yellow, because if someone does want to come develop it, we need to have a recommendation for that area. Whereas ag is like a no recommendation. Ag is basically just leave it alone. And so I think that's why the steering committee went the way that they did. I don't think it's violating, I know, again, I understand Dawn's position, but the underlying zoning isn't going to change. That's going to have to come to you guys as a group and to the plan commission. If it's not going to be estate lots, that's going to have to come before the 5 of you to change that. So changing the comp plan doesn't change any of that.
Right.
Right, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that was gonna be my next point. So whether this is yellow or brown or green or blue or purple, it doesn't affect anything. So why can't we make it brown?
You can make it brown. That just wasn't the recommendation from the steering
Sure.
committee. So
Sure.
there's no reason you can't. That doesn't change anything either.
My proposal is that we make it match what the council promised in their previous dealings with these folks. Just stating my opinion at the moment. Not like Dawn, I'm one of 5 people here. I'll make a motion if everybody's done discussing. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the comp plan as presented with the changes that Dawn's asking for in those specific areas that are currently slated as single-family residential to be changed to agricultural.
So the way this works through state statute is if you want those changes to be made, that's great. We will make the changes, then we send it back to the plan commission. And if they accept those changes, then it's adopted as is. If they don't, then it would come back to you again. But it's not approving the comp plan with the changes.
Gotcha.
So if that's what you guys choose to do, you should table the resolution and make a motion to have us bring you a resolution, correct? Sorry, Dan, go ahead. Explain, please, to make sure we do it properly.
Now, your motion is to reject the proposal you received from the Plan Commission and return it to the Plan Commission for consideration. Would you agree, Linda? That's the way I would say it.
That's how I would say it, and specifically noting what changes that you want the plan commission to consider in the amended document.
Do you want to make that motion since you are more familiar with these
I
areas?
don't recall how many people we had on this steering committee, but Dawn was one of them, I was one of them. And if it was 20 people, if we have one of 20 that is against it, that's going to, what about the other 19 people that were part of this process? Again, Ryan said it before I was going to say it. This is not a zoning map. This is a land use map. So it doesn't, like you said, it could be any color there is. Whatever they want to build, they have to come back and get it rezoned. So no matter what was said, it's still that until somebody comes and requests to rezone it. So I don't see why we have to send it back.
I'd like to piggyback on that a little bit. So what would be the land use of 5-acre estate lots if someone were to come into this area and build according to what Ms. Loudon says was promised?
As 5
What would
acre,
be that underlying recommendation land use needed to be on the comp plan for that to fit?
so
Would that be residential or agricultural?
the agriculture would permit the 5 acre lots.
Would residential? as
Yes.
well?
Residential would, yes, but residential would allow a more dense development.
Would it also allow the 5-acre?
Yes.
So this comp plan does meet the I think this underlying spirit of what she's trying to get to here.
In that it would permit both colors would permit what was promised, yes.
Larger estates.
Yes.
Sure, so I think what I'm trying to get at is if we're gonna talk about this has been a year-long process. We're gonna punt it back to the planning commission to change one area on a comp plan land use recommendation, and it has no actual matter to anything real. They are gonna have, any developer is gonna have to come to us and say, what do you want here? And then that's the time where you say, no, this doesn't fit to what we wanted. You made promises to residents that this would stay 5-acre estates. You're not proposing 5-acre estates. That would fall under responsible growth and is a deniable reason, a reason that we can deny said zoning.
Sure, and it's been said before, but I would agree. I want to emphasize that, and I appreciate, Ms. Loudon, that you'd want to keep your word, but I will guarantee you that nobody can rezone property without you five voting. The comprehensive plan does not change the zoning of any land. It may signal if there's a change in your land, we would prefer, in this case, residential to industrial or some other use, but it doesn't. And then each case has to be considered on its own. And when you do a rezone, as all I know you know, there are 5 factors. The comprehensive plan is one of the 5 factors, and the cases say that you have to view all 5 factors in totality, that no single statutory factor controls that. But I do think it's worth remembering that you, as the town council, control every rezone. And if you believe that a proposal is inconsistent with that, and a developer says, well, yeah, but, Robert, you're correct. You're not locked in because of what this map looks like. I've said it before. You will hear me say it. There are 5 factors, and you're going to look at each of those. So if you're concerned about control and who decides, trust me, the law makes it really clear. You decide every rezone. It doesn't matter to me how you go here. I think it's worth remembering. So what's the motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2025-28, approving an amendment to the comprehensive plan of 2017 of the town of Avon as presented.
Second.
Julie, roll call, please.
Craig Susan,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Jason Puckett,
Against.
Bill Holland,
Against.
Don Loudon,
Against. Moving on to final reading of ordinance 2025-27, adopting the 2026 budget appropriations tax rates.
Hey, Dawn, since you guys voted against it, obviously we need to figure out how to proceed forward. So can we be given guidance on what the next steps the council wants us to do so that we can follow that direction? Or here, Dan,
Well, Linda will need to certify. I think that her certification would be you rejected the proposal because of the recommended land use map treatment of the Southwest Quarter,
That's my reason.
and that you would prefer it stay agricultural.
That's my personal.
Okay, and that's what I heard. Linda, does that give you what you need? You think to take back to the Plan Commission? You are supposed to report your reasons.
I simply heard a rejection of the comp plan as stated. I did not hear that they want a change of the plan to go back to the Plan Commission.
Then perhaps it would be better to go back to Mr. Puckett's previous motion then, where I think we were on that path. And again, state there as many, whatever your reasons are. And then if there's a second to vote, then the planner would have clarification.
So I need to make another motion then. Okay, so our motion is that it be taken back to the Plan Commission with the instructions that the Southwest Corridor areas that President Loudon has previously stated be changed to agricultural as opposed to residential.
Can we be more specific? Because what is the southwest corridor? In the southwest corridor, there is an agricultural area designated already.
Correct.
So that's not the one you're speaking of, though?
No, she mentioned them earlier in this meeting, and I know they were mentioned in the work session as well.
So we need to identify those areas because this whole yellow area is not that whole area.
Correct.
So you need to be specific.
For me personally, what's your motion? So when I was speaking, my concerns were the people whose doors we knocked on. So it would be south of the railroad track along 425 down to County Road 100, which encompasses around the new school down to the other brown area. That's the area I was speaking to.
Well, it's County Road 400,
400.
not 425.
Okay, 400
So I'll say, Dawn, you want the area from 400,
down to 100.
you want it north of 100 north as well? So including those, the east of County Road 400 annexation we just did?
Right, that's.
And then the square around the middle school?
Right, those are the people we told.
Correct. Okay. I think I understand the area that Dawn's referring to, and I can make sure that's communicated to Linda and amended and on the way back. Greg, is that clear to you? You understand the area?
Well, I want it to be descriptive parcels and numbers and everything. I mean, we've named some of the landowners' names. We've named the development that we're addressing, but I think you need to be specific because this whole yellow area on page 155 is not what we're talking about. We're only talking about, I'm going to say the top box from 36 along 400 that jags in and out of, I think that would probably be Liberty Meadows to, you can't see it here, is it where 400 becomes 425, I think it is, or 450.
Yeah, I think it's 500. So then 500, I think that's what we'd follow that square. So we include the piece north of 100, which you're right, Greg, is Liberty Meadows. And then that's the area we just did in the annexation. We'd follow 100 south. We'd come straight down 500 to 200. We'd come across 200 and up at the township line to make that whole square. I believe that's the area Dawn's referring to. Dawn, if I misunderstood.
No, that's the area that we knocked doors.
Okay, because the Foxborough, the Hampton, the Ginseng areas, we're not talking about those areas.
Correct. No. So just that one square area around the middle school.
I can put together a map of what I believe Ryan and I are talking about and send it out and make sure that everybody's in agreement.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So we're currently at a first to go back to the Plan Commission for revisiting. We would need a second.
I will second that.
I'll do roll call. Jason Puckett,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Bill Holland,
For,
Greg Zuzen,
against,
Robert Pope.
Against. Thank you for the year-long effort that you guys put into this, that had a year's worth
Final
of
reading of
input
ordinance
to have time to make these changes.
27, budget appropriations and tax rates.
I wasn't going to share anything on this. I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, you guys had your public hearing on September 11th. I did not get any feedback to change anything from any council members, so I have brought it forward as it was presented on September 11th. Happy to answer any questions. If you guys have any questions, we would recommend approval. We did advertise it according with the DLGF for it to be adopted today. And if you guys approve it, then we'll get our submission to the DLGF.
the only question I have is last meeting that we had to cancel There was going to be a public hearing regarding the budget. Do we need a public hearing?
We had a public hearing on September 11th. The public hearing on the last meeting that we didn't have a quorum for was for a tax abatement.
Okay,
You'll
okay.
you'll redo that towards, we'll have to renotice the public hearing for that tax abatement. So you'll see it on the next one or two meetings. But the public hearing for the budget was on September 11th.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
I make a motion, then we approve ordinance 2025-27, adopting the 26 budget appropriations and tax rates as submitted.
Second.
Who is that? I'm sorry. Okay.
Julie, roll call, please.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Bill Holland,
Against?
Don Loudon,
4. 2026 budget, supporting information. This is the budget by fund, which is part of what we did. So moving on to legal counsel report.
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
It's the second of 2 public comments. Again, the public may comment on items on the agenda that are not part of a public hearing or on a specific matter within the council's jurisdiction. Please state your name and your address and make sure that the microphone's on.
John Hodson, 381 Waterford Lane. The reason I'm coming up here to speak is I was one of the people that was with that group, 3 of the council members, myself, a representative of the library board, representatives of the school board, the school superintendent, the town manager, and myself as township trustee at the time. And these people that came in, promises were made. And although I couldn't make those promises myself or the school or the library, because we didn't have that authority, 3 of the council members did. And they made those promises. So I appreciate the work that these folks have done in this period of time. And I would like to recommend maybe that y'all bring those people in, go through what we're talking about here, maybe see if they're okay with the colors not that important to them. That's just a suggestion. But I think it's important, I agree with her, because folks, if you're going to give, when you start giving promises, you better stand behind them. Otherwise, people aren't going to believe you when you give a promise. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on to council comment. No one speaking. We'll move forward with council calendar. Ryan?
Yes, your next meeting is October 23rd. It is just a regular meeting, no work session unless something comes up between now and then. So 7 PM on October 23rd.
I won't be here.
Okay, meeting adjourned.